بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So in this lesson we are discussing the conditions of a khabar wahid being accepted. When it's a khabar mutawatir, there's no need for us to analyze it because the tawatur itself proves that this is a maqbool narration, ma'na, hukam of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said this, it's understood correctly, transmitted correctly, there's no doubt in this. A mashhur, the ummah, before the mujtahidun, before Imam Malik, before Imam Abu Hanifa, the ummah before them have done the job. تلقته الأمة بالقبول. The ummah have accepted the hadith. They've taken it on, there's an amal upon it. There's no need for us to come and say, well, the amal itself is a sign that the hadith is maqbool. The Sahaba acted upon it, Tabi'in acted upon it. So you don't need for us to analyze it. The khabar wahid mean, now second, third generation is still one person narrating this. So now we say, well, this is a sign that it needs to be analyzed. So there are many conditions. So some conditions are being mentioned here for us to basically sieve and verify. One of the ways the muhaddisun do it is they look at the ruwat, are they thiqah, do they have adala, do they have dhabt, all of these things. And other conditions that the fuqaha are on are mentioned here. وَبِاعْتِبَارِ اخْتِلَافِ أَحْوَالِ الرُّوَاتِ. And based on the differences of the conditions of the ruwat, in terms of the thiqah, are they authentic, are they liars, are they muttaqeen, are they fasiq, are they have dhabt, they memorize, preserve, understand, transmit correctly. Based on all of these variations, قلنا, we say, شرط العمل بخبر الواحد. Some additional conditions along with the ruwat, the adl and dhabt, etc. that the muhaddithun add on. There are a few other things we will look at to help us understand or verify whether this riwayah is maqbool or not. Whether this riwayah is maqbool, meaning did the Prophet say this? Is it intended meaning? Has it been transmitted correctly? Sahaba and amal upon it. All of these things will kind of give us a conviction that this is actually what is meant and intended. He's mentioned two things here. If you go through some other books of Usool Fiqh, you'll find a few more. We'll keep it as simple as possible. The first thing he mentions is أَلَّا يَكُونَ مُخَالِفًا لِلْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ الْمَشْهُورَةِ. That this riwayah must not go against the kitab or the sunnah mashhura. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his statements are a tibyan, bayanan linnas, as a bayan for the لِتُبَيِّنَ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, is to clarify the Quran, is to give an amal to the Quran, is to give a practical demonstration of the Quran. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's statement or his fi'l would not go against the Quran. If it does, that means that this either Rawi's got a problem, or it means we have not understood the ayah as it's supposed to be understood. Sorry, we've not understood the hadith as it's supposed to be understood, meaning maybe the hadith has a different meaning or a different interpretation to what we think it means. Because the Prophet can't say something against the Quran. His commentary, his words and his statements actually clarify the Quran. So whenever the Prophet ﷺ says something, it has to explain the Quran. It can't go against the Quran. If it goes against the Quran, that means the Prophet probably never said this. Or the Prophet meant something which we don't understand, which is not apparent, or the Prophet meant something which we're not understanding. Similarly, it is sunnah mashhura, a sunnah like a hadith or a amal, which everybody does amal upon. We would say here that maybe something, this is a particular instance, is something khas. There's some reason for us not to do amal upon this hadith. This khabar wahid, there's something fihi shay. And the second condition is mentioned here is Allah yakuna mukhalifan lidh-dhahir, that this hadith must not be against the zahir. What does it mean against the zahir? Okay, he mentioned it as one condition, but in other books you will see that many people mention it as two different conditions. He mentioned one thing, or there's a few things come under this. He's mentioned the Hasha got two things, and one thing comes up later on. What is this? لا يكون الخبر خفيا في حادثة تؤم به البلوى. One of the ways we can say that this hadith is not mukhalifun li-dhahir. The hadith is mukhalifun li-dhahir, is that it goes against, the first example is that there is a wide known or widespread practice that is you need all the time. Correct? Yet, and it's ta'ummu bihil balwa. Balwa, people's involvement. So people's involvement, interaction with this masala is very common. It's not like a one-off masala. Like say for example, you can say, okay, it only happened once in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, so it wasn't that well known. Like for example, the sun eclipse, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, it may happen only once. So a Sahabi may have narrated this hadith because it didn't, like, it's not an everyday thing. But you've got an everyday masla, something like salah, something like saum, something like hajj, like zakah. Yet this hadith is not narrated for a very long time. People don't know about this hadith. Yes. So one of the examples that they use, again, there's not only one answer to this hadith, there's many answers, is the hadith where if a person touches his private parts, then the wuzu breaks. So there's many questions regarding this hadith that the Hanaf don't know about this. I'm not sure about the other, I can't remember right now. I don't think the Shawaf, I'm not sure, I can't remember, I don't know this quote. So the thing is that this hadith is only narrated by one lady. There's other reasons we don't upon this hadith, but one of them is that it's only narrated by one lady, and this is what breaks wuzu is something very common. So this is a mas'ala which everybody would be involved in, and everybody should have known this. So along with the other evidences that we have as well, which we say is evidence that it doesn't break wudu, we say here that it's a hadith, a riwayah, which is khafi, and not like a small masla regarding some very private issue or a very rare issue. It's a very common issue. So this means hadith mukhalif li dhahir, meaning it doesn't add up with what the apparent meaning. It should be more well known. There's also other evidence against this as well. Another example where the hadith is khafi, as mukhalif li dhahir, is amila as-sahaba bi khilafi mujabi dhalik. The Sahaba, the hadith is saying one thing, but Sahaba never done amal upon this. They do something against this. So which means that they never understood the hadith as we understand it, or the Sahaba can't go against the hadith themselves. You can't have a hadith, the Sahabi says something, and he goes against it. What it means that the Sahabi is like, what? They don't do amal upon their own thing? For him? So this is like certain kind of qara'in, that there's something in this hadith which means it has to be understood in a different way, or maybe the transmission is incorrect, or it means something else. Okay. Now there's a hadith, he mentioned the narration here, but you can't find this narration anywhere. But he says, maybe it was in those books that were there before, Wallahu a'lam, but we don't have narration. But he says here, he says here, تَكْثُرُ لَكُمُ الْأَحَادِيثِ. He's reporting, the Prophet said this, we can't find this riwayah, that many ahadith will be narrated from me afterwards. فَإِذَا رُوِيَ لَكُمْ عَنِّي حَدِيثٌ. When a hadith narrated from me, فَأَعْرِضُوهُ عَلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Present it, match it with the Kitabullah. فَمَا وَافَقَ فَاقْبَلُوا وَمَا خَالَفَ فَرُدُّوا. So, don't know the hadith. But however, we do find the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum did use this principle. For example, Aisha radiyallahu is one masla. We'll do it in any book of hadith. Come in a book of hadith. There was one masla. I'm not going to discuss it right now. But Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he narrated the hadith. And Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala said, may Allah forgive Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He's not lying, but he may probably not misunderstood. The Quran says this, so it can't be this. So Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she used the same principle. The Quran says this, Abdullah ibn Umar saying this, he probably misunderstood, or he actually meant this. Similarly, there's another hadith, Fatima bint Qais, she narrates one mas'ala regarding something. And Umar radiyallahu ta'ala said, we will not leave the Kitabullah for the hadith of this lady, a narration of this lady. So again, the Sahaba, so this hadith is what we got on the screen. I don't know where it's from. I can't find it. But the concept of presenting or matching up a hadith against the Kitabullah is something Sahaba did. So if a hadith goes against Kitabullah, it's one of two possibilities. Either the narrators got it wrong in between, or the meaning of the hadith is not as you understand it to be. Because the Quran that's the main thing. Fahim? And there's another narration here, again, is Ali radiallahu, did he actually say this? Whether he said it or not, it does, the context or like the meaning is sahih. What does he say here? فيما روي عن علي بن أبي طالب أنه قال كانت الرواة على ثلاثة أقسام. Whether Ali radiallahu ta'ala said this or not, it's a fact. What does he say here? مؤمن مخلص صحب رسول الله وعرف معنى كلامه. Some of the Sahaba, who are they going to be? They are going to be believers, mukhlis, they accompanied the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they knew what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. They understood what he meant. So when they narrate something, it's solid. Then you also have some people, وَأَعْرَابِيٌّ. You have an Arabi. He became Muslim, he came from a village, his level of education is not that high. He came, he heard something and went back. وَأَعْرَابِيٌّ جَاءَ مِنْ قَبِيلَةٍ فَسَمِعَ بَعْضَ مَا سَمِعَ وَلَمْ يَعْرِفْ حَقِيقَةَ كَلَامِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. He came, he heard something, he didn't understand what the reality of the Prophet ﷺ is saying. فرجع إلى قبيلته فروى بغير لفظ رسول الله. He narrated in his own words أن تغير المعنى وهو يظن أن المعنى لا يتفاوت. And again, and he narrates the riwayat bil ma'na, not understanding the implication of his riwayat bil ma'na. So basically saying here that you get some people who are, he's not even saying he's a lie. He's saying here both of these are fine. However, he's sahiba Rasulullah. So when he have musahaba, he's a faqih, or he spent a lot of time with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would understand what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying. If an Arabi comes for one time, he comes for a few days, a week, 5 days to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he goes back. So now he's heard something, and he's not saying he's lying, but he's saying sometimes he does not understand the technicalities, the nuances of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's kalam. So in here he may have narrated something and miss out something, added something, not like a bad niyyah, but to clarify or paraphrase, and all of these things can cause complications. So these two both are fine. However, this person he has suhbah. So because of this, what will happen? His riwayah is going to be better. And here you have to then question it and see, well, okay, what was really said? Does it add up? And then he says they were also munafiq in time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And some of them, we know they were munafiq. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, for example. But some of them, lam yu'raf nifaquhu. So, فَرَوَى مَا لَمْ يَسْمَعْ. He's a kadhib. He's a kadhib. So he's saying, even at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you had munafiqun. And some of them, their nifaq was not known. So, waftara, and he fabricated lies. فَسَمِئَ مِنْهُ أُنَاسٌ فَظَنُّوهُ مُؤْمِنًا. And people heard from him and think he's a mu'min mukhlisan. فَرَوَوْ ذَلِكَ وَاشْتَهَرَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And then his riwayah became mashhur amongst the people, and then it became well known. That's why the muhaddithun had to do a big thing in trying to clear out all of these ahadith and filter out all these kind of riwayah. So this way we say that people lie, and this did happen. People did lie against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why you have kitab al-mawdu'at. People actually compile books of hadith where they just put all the mawdu' hadith, all the fabricated hadith, so we become aware of the mawdu' hadith. Then we have mu'min who don't lie, but two types. One who's a sahib al-suhbah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and other people who just accompany Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they weren't on that level and they could have misunderstood. So based on this, that's why we have to analyze these riwayat. فَلِهَذَا الْمَعْنَى. Because of this, because you can get the last two categorizations. One is a person who is truthful, honest and mukhlis, but makes a mistake. Or one who's a munafiq. We must do what? We must compare these ahadith and analyze these ahadith in light of the Quran and the Sunnah. Without analyzing in light of the Quran and the Sunnah, we end up with some problems. Fahim? That's why he's saying here, what we must do? وَجَبَ أَرْضُ الْكِتَابِ أَرْضُ الْخَبَرِ. When it's khabar wahid, we must present it and compare it to the Kitabullah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but the established Sunnah, which is maqbool and talaqathu al-ummatu bil-qabool. And they give an example here, a few examples here. وَنَظِيرُ الْأَرْضِ عَلَى الْكِتَابِ فِي حَدِيثِ مَثِّ الذَّكَرِ. The same hadith I mentioned to you before. There's one lady, she narrates a hadith that whoever touches their private parts, they must do wudu again. So, there's two ways we can say, well, this hadith there's also other riwayat, other amal of the Sahaba, other amal of Tabi'un, which fatawa of Tabi'un, which go against this hadith. So because we say, well, there's much stronger evidence against this. But two things that we can use against this as well is, one is that I mentioned before, ta'ummu bihil balwa. It's a common issue, yet only one lady narrates it. None of the Sahaba narrated it. Number one. And number two, Sahib Usool al-Shashi is saying, this also goes against the Quran. Why? فَعَرَضْنَاهُ عَلَى الْكِتَابِ. If you compare to the Quran as well, فَخَرَجَ مُخَالِفًا. It comes out and it becomes apparent, it's against the Quran. How? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فِيهِ رِجَالٌ يُحِبُّونَ أَن يَتَطَهَّرُوا. In this area, and thanks for the Quba, there are rijal, there are people يُحِبُّونَ أَن يَتَطَهَّرُوا, who wish to cleanse themselves. Now this is regarding those people who would wash with water after istinja. So now He's saying here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is tatahhur. Washing yourself after relieving yourself in the toilet is tatahhur. So getting water and wiping it, washing and wiping off all the impurities from your private parts after you relieve yourself is cleanliness. Yes? You understand how his istilal is? فَإِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يَسْتَنْجُونَ بِالْأَحْجَارِ ثُمَّ يَغْسِلُونَ بِالْمَاءِ. And Allah praised them that these people are the what? They are mutatahhirun. They are those who acquire tatahhur, acquire cleanliness. So now, the hadith that she's narrating, there's many questions with it. One question is saying that touching the private parts is a means of impurity. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that washing it, when you wash it, you can't just wash it, you have to rub it, scrub it. So now this is tatahhur for him. So therefore, you say here that this is against. I think there's a bit of part I missed out here. Another bit of part missing in your hadith, in your books. No, I think there's a small little bit missing, but you can do that transition yourself. There's another hadith, وَكَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. There's another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أَيُّمَا إِمْرَأَةٍ نَكَحَتْ نَفْسَهَا بِغَيْرِ إِذْنِ وَلِيِّهَا فَنِكَاحُهَا بَاطِلٌ بَاطِلٌ بَاطِلٌ. This is the hadith. Now, the other imam, they do amal upon this. They said if a lady, she does nikah without her wali has to do her nikah. If the wali does not do the nikah, what happens then? Her nikah is void, like ta'keed, is batil. There's a hadith, khabar wahid. There's two aspects to it. Now, this hadith is very clear. The batil, as the ta'keed, is very clear that nikah is null and void. However, the Ahnaf say no, the nikah, she can do her own nikah. She shouldn't do it, or maybe recommendation. But we say we don't take the hadith for two reasons. One is mentioned here. خَرَجَ مُخَالِفًا لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. Do not stop them, prevent them أَن يَنْكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ. أَن يَنْكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ. That they marry their husbands. So the yankih is khas. The nikah of yankih, the verb yankih, is the fa'il is na. The jama mu'annas. So they are doing the nikah. So the Kitabullah is saying that they do nikah. That's one. You understand? So therefore the nisbah is to the women are doing nikah. That's one aspect. Another aspect we say that the rawi of this hadith is Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Yes? And she narrated this hadith. However, I think her nephew or her brother. So she got her niece married. Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. She got her niece married when her brother wasn't there. The wali wasn't there. Wali was traveling. And without the wali, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala conducted and got the nikah done. And when the brother came back, he was a bit upset. Not that he wasn't happy with the husband, but that because without my approval, without me being involved, you got the nikah done. So we say it's Bukhari from the Zahir as well. Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala narrates the hadith. She can't go against the hadith herself. How can she go against the hadith herself? That she narrates the hadith unless she goes against it. Which means that this riwayah is there's something in it, fihi shay. Again, it's a long discussion in books of hadith and people go, what we just said, there's also arguments against that, but this is just two ways of looking at it. That is, one is mukhalifun li kitabillah, the yankihna here, and also against mukhalifun li zahir, because Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she herself went against this. So we say this nikah is, so this means this hadith has a meaning, or the riwayah fihi shay, or the meaning is not but the meaning is quite clear, but we don't amal upon this. Okay, we'll do it more inshallah later on in the book of hadith. فإن الكتاب in this ayah الكتاب يوجب تحقيق النكاح منهن. The ينكحن shows that the nikah takes place from the sister, the sister, the woman. Another example is you do muqabala, you add it up with the khabar mashhur. So ومثال العرض على الخبر المشهور, an example of comparing a khabar wahid to a khabar mashhur. So khabar wahid, one narration, and mashhur means a musallam hadith, which a sunnah amal, which talaqqat al-ummatu bil qabul. One of those is riwayat al-qada bi shahidin wa yamin. That is a riwayah where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he passed what's the rule? This is the rule. If somebody makes a claim, you have to prove your case. How do you prove your case? Bring two witnesses. So al-yaminu ala al-bayyina. Yes? Al-bayyina. Al-bayyina means shahid. You have to have one shahid. You have to have another shahid. Correct? You have to have two shahid. So this is the claimant, the person making the claim, the claimant. And the person who is defendant, if you can't prove his case, then to make yourself free and absorb yourself, you say, you take a yameen, wallahi, take a oath. So if you're making a claim, this is my pen, you have to have two witnesses to prove that it's your pen. If you don't have two witnesses, then he has to take a qasam, this is not his pen. There's a hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is a masala, and this is sunnah mashhura. Many times it comes, and shahidan, having two witnesses, two male or one male and two females, this is musallam. Hadith mashhur is well known. There's no ikhlaf in this. But there's one hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam done a judgment And instead of two, the person who's making the claim, he only had one shahid. There was only one shahid. So what happened then? The Prophet accepted the shahid and said, you don't have a second witness, you take an oath. The person making the claim, you take an oath. So you have one witness and you take an oath, that's enough. We say this hadith, maybe it's khas, maybe it's specific to this situation. But the general rule is you must have a shahid and you must have the person must have two shahid, or he must have a yameen. The yameen is not his wazifa. The yameen is not for him. The yameen is for this person. So this riwayah where it says the Prophet ﷺ passed a judgment based on the claimant's yameen and one shahid. We say fihi shay. Either it's makhsus Rasulullah ﷺ, something else, something is missing, but the khabar mashhur, the musallam sunnah of all the Sahaba, tabi'un, the fatwa of the Sahaba and the tabi'un, and the mashhur hadith which maqbool and talaqqat ummatu bil qabul is al-bayyinatu ala man idda'a, not yamin ala man idda'a. Fahimt? So we say fihi shay. Yes. وباعتبار هذا المعنى based on this قلنا we say خبر الواحد إذا خرج مخالفا للظاهر لا يؤمل به. If it comes up مخالف للظاهر, and I mentioned before, what is مخالف للظاهر? One mention is mentioned here, is this. ومن صور, meaning there's many صور. There's many ways you can say مخالف للظاهر. One of the suwar, one of the forms of mukhalafatul zahir is, so min suwari mukhalafatul zahir, adamu ishtiharil khabar, is the khabar not becoming well known, not becoming famous. Which kind of masala? Fima ya'ummu bihil balwa. In that masala, that scenario, that situation, where there is general involvement, general need. Fi sadr al-awwal wa thani. In the first two generations, in the Sahaba, in the Prophet ﷺ time, Sahaba's time, Tabi'un's time, in that time it never became widespread, never became well known. Yet it's a common masla, not well known. Why? لأنهم لا يتهمون. We do not accuse them of بالتقصير في متابعة السنة, because we do not accuse the Sahaba and the Tabi'un of being deficient, having shortcomings, not fulfilling the responsibilities in following the Sunnah. So if it was not mutabatu sunnah and iblaghu sunnah, so if this well-known masla, day-to-day masla, hajj, salah, zakah, sawm, hajj, common nikah masail, common buyu masail, it didn't become well-known in Sahaba's time, Tabi'in's time. Where was this hadith all this time? Meaning, you basically saying for like 50 years, nobody did amal upon the sunnah. If it's a rare mas'ala, then it's okay, maybe it was a need for it, nobody explained it, fine. But when it's like a common mas'ala, we say this is again mukhalifun li zahir. Another form I mentioned to you before is the Sahabi themselves do amal against this. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَشْتَهِرِ الْخَبَرِ, when the khabar did not become well known in the qarnul thani and thalith, مَا أَشِدَّةِ الْحَاجَةِ وَأُمُومِ الْبَلْوَى, along with the need for this and common involvement in this, كَانَ ذَلِكَ عَلَامَةُ عَدَمِ صِحَّتِهِ, it's a sign that this hadith is not sahih. Either there's a mistake in it, there's a narration, riwayah, something has gone wrong in this riwayah. Does everybody understand so far? Then he gives a few examples of khabar wahid, taken, not taken, in fiqh examples, not in hadith. So the concept is, even in fiqh, what do we have? We have this example that where the khabar is muwafiqun li zahir, you take it. When it's mukhalifun li zahir, you don't take it. What's the example? في الحكميات. إذا أخبر واحد, if one person informs another أن امرأته حرمت عليه بالرضاء الطاري, جاز أن يعتمد على خبره ويتزوج Is that yours as well? ويتزوج أختها? Is that text in yours? Is this in your text? وتزوج أختها? Yeah, so what will happen now here is you have two types of rada. One is, what will happen in the past, what will happen, sometimes people in some customs, some cultures, they marry children off when they're very young. And when they get older, reach the age of puberty, then they can start consummating the marriage. But from young, they will have the nikah done. Sometimes you're going to have an adult, and they have a young child got married, but then the nikah will be consummated when the girl reaches or when the boy reaches the maturity. This is something that people used to do. This is to do. Fine? So now, if let's say for example they got 2 children married, and say okay they're married, and when they get older they consummate the marriage, and they both is 1 year old. The 2 wali, the fathers, or they do the nikah. So that okay, this is sorted out. When they get older now, it's finished. So now, when these 2 are young, if there's a radha tari, meaning now they're still under the age of 2, isn't it? So before the age of 2, what could happen before the age of 2? You can still breastfeed. So if one lady informs that I have this boy and girl, they are married and they're going to have their marriage consummated when they get each age of puberty or each age of adulthood, whichever that age differs in different societies. Now one woman says, I fed both of them. I went and fed both of them. This is radha tari, meaning I fed them right now. I went and fed both of them. Why? She did that some spitefulness. What happens now? The nikah will become what? Haram. Because now they what are they? Radha'i brothers and sisters, aren't they? Now because the Zahir says it's possible that one woman said it, she gave witness, and I fed them both. So now this is radha' tari. As opposed to if people, there's the 18, 19, 20, 21, 25, 30 years old, and then the woman says, oh, I fed both of them. We say, well, the second one is khilafun zahir. The first one muwafiqun li zahir. That one woman gives information that I fed them both. It's possible, very possible. The other one is like, these 2 people have reached the age of 20, 18, 19, adulthood, 25, 30, however old they are. All this time, nobody knew about them being radha'i brother and sister. And now you're saying that I fed them 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So if this was the case, then people would have known about this. So that ikhbar is not sahih, because that's mukhalifun li zahir. The zahir is there is umumul balwa, to know who your radha'i brothers and sisters are. So in that situation we say this is not maqbool. But if I have radha' tari, I fed them right now, that's muwafiqun li zahir. So in terms of this ikhbar of wahid, if it's a radha' tari, then this is maqbool, khabar wahid. And if it's rida of a qadim radha'a, we say it's ghayr maqbool. We'll finish off tomorrow inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So we are continuing with examples from non-hadith regarding khabar wahid. So another example we have here is وَلَوْ اشْتَبَهَتْ عَلَيْهِ الْقِبْلَةِ. There's a person and he's unaware where the qibla is. The qibla is what? Mushtabih. Is it here? Is it there? There's no alamat, nothing to point towards this. فَأَخْبَرَهُ وَاحِدٌ أَنْهَا. And if somebody informs him that qibla is this way, وَجَوَ الْعَمَلُ بِهِ. So the khabar wahid can amal upon this. Fahim? Ji. Because not khilafun li zahir. Yes? You got it? Like for example, you go to masjid, musalla is facing this way, the musalla masjid pointing this way, mihrab is this way, so masjid qibla is this way. That's khilafun li zahir. In there, even khabar wahid, you would probably be reluctant, isn't it? Like, let me ask somebody, let me double check. Let me check something else. Because like, what are you saying, there's an adab. You go to the masjid, it's an empty room, and qibla is that way. Even for example, you go to the room, and a sticker in a hotel room, qibla. You just follow it. But if you say, well, no, we walk to the masjid that way. If it's khilaf al-zahir, then you do what? Then you will have a question regarding that. Example number 4, regarding khabar wahid in ahkam. وَلَوْ وَجَدَ مَاءً لَا يَعْلَمُ حَالَهُ. He finds water, but he's unaware of its state, its condition. Like, is it clean, not clean? فَأَخْبَرَهُ وَاحِدٌ عَنِ النَّجَاسَةِ. And one person informed him of it being najis. Now again, if there's something inside, you can see blood inside, you can see filth inside, then that's zahir. Yes, then. But somebody says it's najasa, because najasa, you can have one drop of najasa inside. That makes also najis. لا يتوضأ به بل يتيمم. So in here he's giving a few examples where khabar wahid can become hujja in normal ahkam. Understood? Okay. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayka.